Hello, everyone. I'm Francis Seeley from Enfield Voices and GlobalNet 21. And as you can see, I've got here Karl Rogers with me. Karl Brown, sorry, I'm calling him Karl Rogers. We did, last week we did Claire Rogers, and this time it's Karl Brown. And
no relation. No relation.
No, I knew I was going to make that mistake. Every week I'm going to call someone a different name. That will confuse everyone. Anyhow, Karl is from the Palmer's Green Festival, and you can see him here. And the Palmer's Green Festival is something that happens every year, and it's a very exciting event with a lot of activities. And we thought we'd interview Karl today just to go through that and to find out what it's all about. Now, if you're joining us today, you can put your comments on Facebook and we'll try and pick them up. So if you have any questions, please, pass them on to us and we'll look forward to having them. So anyhow, let's start beginning the interview then by talking to Karl. Karl, can you tell us a bit about Palmer's Green Festival? What is it exactly?
Well, I think first, just to say thanks, Francis, for this the time and the platform you're giving over to the festival, and hopefully I can just give a good representation and represent the many volunteers that have made it what it is. So thanks for that. Sorry to everyone for yesterday. There was a bit of a technical hitch, I think, and that was my fault. I seem to be the only person in Enfield who doesn't have a Facebook account. So I'm about 5 years behind Jacob Rees-Mogg, which is making me worried and kept me awake most of the night. But coming onto the festival. What's it about? I'm going to talk for me. What I like about it. For me, it's a giant street party. I think it's probably the simplest way of thinking about it. And if anyone watching hasn't been to or doesn't have a street party in their own street, I would just encourage you to do it. Get 3 or 4 of your neighbours, get on the council's website and get yourself a street party. You'll get to know who you live with, who your neighbours are. It's fantastic. And the Palmer's Green Festival is a giant one of those. It's centred on Palmer's Green, obviously, but we get people coming from much wider, and everyone's welcome because we want to promote Palmer's Green. Great place. So top level, it's a giant street party. What it's not, and I think we need to say this because a lot of people believe it's a council-run event, and it's absolutely not a council-run event. This is something which has originated from a particular member of our local community, and every year it's been organised, managed, funded by locals, for locals and other people who want to come to Palmer's Green. So we've got one really big sort of belief about what it is, and it's not a council event. Obviously we work with the council on things like risk and getting licenses and things like that, and they're great, they're very supportive, but this is a community event for the community.
I was going to ask you about misconceptions that people had, and you've mentioned one right now that people think it's a council-sponsored or a council-organised event. Are there any other misconceptions that people have about the festival?
I think the other one, because it is a big event. It takes most of Broomfield Park, and for those people who know Broomfield Park, the only parts of the park which the festival doesn't fill is the running track, the football field, which is where the children's playground is, and the Remembrance Garden. All the rest of the park is pretty much filled by the festival. So this is a very, very large event on the day, and you see a large event, and what people obviously think, it's a hugely profitable enterprise. So I suppose in terms of other misconceptions, it's absolutely not. We're a bunch of locals. We don't have a lot of money, and we run it off an absolutely tiny, minuscule budget. So when we ask for donations and someone sends £5 or £10 in, marvellous, thanks a lot. Little sums make a huge difference. So it's not the council, and it's not a hugely profitable. In fact, I think the last 2 years I understand they didn't even make a profit. It ran at a sort of slight loss. But the cost base is tiny, and we'll try and keep it that way. We have a rule that basically no one gets paid. Everyone there is volunteers. And the other one, I've heard this comment quite a few times. If people are familiar with Broomfield Park, they will know it's split into different areas. What we call zones. There's a field here. There's a bowling green there. There's lakes here. We call them zones and have different parts of the festival there. And we've had any number of people who will spend the time in the dance zone. We might talk about that later on. And there might be 30 stalls in there, music going on, people having a great time. And come about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they'll say, that's been a great festival. And then they realise it's actually one tiny part of it. In fact, the festival stretches out over the whole of the park. So yeah, not council, it's a tiny budget, and it's really very big.
So you say that you know, you don't have a lot of money and you rely on donations. Is it small donations that make up your funding, or do you get funding elsewhere as well?
Well, I suppose there's two main sources of funding for the festival. One is the stall holders, and the stall holders pay a fee, and that's on the website. And it varies from the stalls who are providing hot food, because we think they're going to make more money from that, right down to a few tens of pounds for some of the smaller charities and little startups. And that's a big income stream for us. And the second big one is we have a sponsor. We've had Winkworth Estate Agents in Palmer's Green. They've sponsored us for, I think this is the 6th or 7th year. They don't ask for a lot of branding. They don't ask for a lot of publicity. They basically write us a check. In previous years, they've funded things like the postcards, the banners we put there to publicise the event, and they bought us T-shirts. And in previous years, they've filled the cost gap on the climbing wall we have there. So those are the two big chunks of money we get. And on top of that, if we do get donations, fantastic.
Okay, so the festival's on September the 2nd, isn't it? And we know that. So if people want to go along, it's September the 2nd in Broomfield Park. Now, it's been going for some years now. I mean, and it's a great idea. Anyone who goes there can see how big it is and how varied it is. But how did it all start? Where did it begin from? Where was the idea? Where did it germinate?
I said this is quite an interesting story. This one's hard to believe in some ways. So I think myself, so I'm quite heavily involved this year. Last year, I was merely an attendee at the festival. Like anybody, you turn up, you get there free. The year before, I wasn't even in London. I was a volunteer. About 5, 6 years, I was treasurer. So there's a number of volunteers who've been involved doing different things over the years. Some have been involved for the whole 9, 10 months during the year doing work. Some just help on the day. And all help is really very much appreciated. But there's one fella, and that's the fella who set it up, and that's Philip Chard, who's known to many in Palmer's Green, and he'd been known as the chap who he opened up on our rail line the first cafe in the railway station. It was called the Waiting Rooms, and he also opened up the first farmers market, which we now know, like cafes and railway stations, have spread all over the place. In Philip's daughter, who's now 26, the same age as this, my daughter, Molly, has always been interested in performing arts, drama, singing. And the story goes that when she was a teenager, Molly wanted to sing in public. Ideally, she wanted to sing on the bandstand in Broomfield Park. So what do you do when your teenage daughter wants to sing on the bandstand in Broomfield Park? Of course, you set up a festival. Don't just go along, there's a microphone, get on with it. You set up a festival. So Philip actually set up a festival so his daughter could sing on the bandstand. And Molly has sung. I don't think she's singing this year because she's just given birth to his first grandchild about a month ago. So I doubt she's going to be up there singing. But she's sung a lot of years on the bandstand. So her wish, I guess, has been well and truly slated by now. And it's taken off and gone from strength to strength. And I've got to say that while volunteers like myself come and go, Philip has been there every year. So he's been the rock of the festival. Every year, year in, year out, putting in colossal amounts of hours to make it happen for everyone's benefit. Okay,
so we know one of the purposes of the festival is to give Molly an audience, and obviously that's happened, and Philip must be really pleased about that, and even more pleased about his grandchild that will be coming. But what other purposes are there? I mean, if you were to define the purpose now, you've looked at the way it's developed, what would you say was the purpose of the festival?
Well, it's sort of branded in terms of the green heart logo, which was developed about 6-7 years ago, again by a local graphic artist volunteer. And along the side, they're celebrating our community. And Philip's very strong on this. It's partly why I use the theme that it's a large street party for Palmer's Green, people who come along. Celebrating our community is very much where Philip tries to position it. I also talk about sort of fun and free. But within that, we've got different themes. One theme we've always been very strong on is, so you have a lot of people turning up to the festival, but we also have a lot of stall holders. And one thing we've always tried to do is give support to very small micro startups. So if you imagine you're a startup, you run the business from your bedroom or front room, you haven't got a lot of money almost by definition. You won't have a high street presence. You won't have access to footfall. You probably haven't got much money for marketing material. So we will really try and give at very low cost the chance for a business, micro business startup, to meet hundreds or could be thousands of people to see their services, see their products, get in front of them. We've always been strong on that, and that maintains.
And I mean, is there a purpose as well to build community, to help people get together, to know each other, to network, and to build communities from the bottom up? Does it help do that as well?
I think there's obviously there's a website. It's Palmer's Green Festival, I think .org.uk, and on the front of that there's a short little video. It's about 2 minutes long. It was taken, it was last year, the year before. It shows you some of the aspects of the festival. There's a few little interviews at the end, and there's one which struck me. It's a local chap, and he says he's gone along with the festival, and he saw one of his neighbours there, a person who lives in his street, who he's never spoken to before, and all the time, however long he's lived in Palmer's Green, and yet at the festival, it was the chance to meet. So is it a chance to build community that way? Absolutely. And I go back to my street party analogy there. We've had a street party in my own street for 4 or 5 years, and neighbours do know neighbours now. And they absolutely say, I've lived here for how many years, I didn't know neighbours, and now I do. And the festival is just a much bigger example of that. It's a chance to find out who lives locally, find out what's going on, and what groups are around locally as well, all of which helps to build the networks, which I think are very strong in Palmer's Green.
Yeah, I mean, Palmer's Green is great. It's a great place for things starting, and it always has been. So, I mean, people get to meet each other, they network on the day, they find out what's happening in the locality, what groups there are, what businesses there are, what pressure groups, what political parties, because they're there as well, and they can get involved. But do you have any concrete examples of things that have developed as a result of the festival?
I'm sure there's lots I'm not aware of, but let's just take one, which has been a real flagship for Palmer's Green. If we go back something like 6 years, a couple of local guys, Dave Williamson and Steve Foster, they had a long-range cinema club, where they would go around each other's houses and one would choose a film. And they had this idea, well, could we run this as a much larger enterprise for the community? And we were having a chat as part of the festival, and they were worried whether this would actually take off and be viable. So we did a quick straw poll. You put your hand up if you think a cinema would work. Community cinema, absolutely. And we were so committed to this that we thought we had a little bit surplus money that particular year. So we gave that across to Dave and Steve, and this thing called Torquay's Community Cinema came out. Now, a lot of people in Enfield have probably heard of Torquay's. People in Palmer's Green and nearby areas where Torquay's have expanded to, Winchmore Hill, the Enfield Dugdale Centre, Bounds Green, they actually have Torquay's now. This has been fantastic. Again, it's forming its own network. It has its own festival. So I think that's been a fantastic success. It's something which kind of spun out. What else? Let's look at the Ruth Winston Centre, an over 50s, very highly regarded charity based in Palmer's Green, draws from a wide area. And I think it's fair to say that the current chair of the trustees ended up in that particular role because of links between festival and the Ruth Winston Centre.
Well, those are
Green.
Yeah, I mean, those are two really good examples. And the great things about networks, as I know in the past, is many things happen that you never know about, but they just happen, and people are making connections all the time. Now, in the festival in the past, you've just had a festival, but this time you decided to give it a theme, haven't you? Health and well-being. Tell us about that theme and why you've chosen it.
It was, I see. So the general theme of festival has been the big celebration, and back end of last year when they're planning for this year's festival first started. There is obviously much greater awareness of the just the need for health and well-being. This mental health is a issue which is always in the press. Many of us are familiar with, and the vast majority of the population will suffer at some time in their life. Obesity is an increasing problem eating into the NHS budget, and for me, you have this issue of life expectancy differences, which it's a UK-wide thing. But if you look at our own borough, the difference between the east of the borough and the west of the borough, your life expectancy difference could be something like 10 years. I think that's quite dreadful. So we can't solve that as a festival. We thought if there's just anything small we can do, which might be a little nudge, which would help things along, then we've got a bit of a footprint. So let's give it a go. So we took this health and well-being theme, which is very broad, and then thought, well, within that, any particular areas we could focus in on. We focused in on healthy people and healthy and stronger communities, and tried to use those as areas where we could work with and see if there's anything we particularly do to nudge people in what we hope will be helpful directions.
So it's going to be all organic food, and the hamburgers are going to be out this time.
No, people like hamburgers at festivals, but what we have done, we have given every stallholder when they register, they've been asked to specifically think about the health and well-being theme in terms of their offer. And every catering stall has got a copy of the mayor's, it's called the Healthy London Catering Commitment. So broadly, now I'm going to summarize very briefly. What that means is, no, it doesn't mean you can't have beef burgers and everyone's got to have lentils or whatever it might be with a side portion of vegetables. But if you are serving burgers, then think about maybe the oil you're cooking it in, and make sure that your stall doesn't just have burgers, but there is an alternative for people.
Okay.
So it's a nudge. It's a nudge.
Okay, so it's a nudge philosophy, and you're trying to get people to think about healthy eating, healthy living, and so on. You're also got a number of new features in the festival this year, haven't you? Would you like to tell us about them?
We have, and part of the what we always try and do at the festival, I say that the last couple of years we sort of broke even, just made a little bit of a loss, but we always try and keep it fresh. There's certain items we're never going to change at festival. We're never going to change the dance zone. It's just so fantastic and so popular. We'll never change that. There'll be stalls there. We always expect there'll be music on the bandstand. But round that, is there anything else we can bring to it? So I think we've got certainly three new things this year where we're going to try, and we're very hopeful they're all going to work. One is there's an issue everyone will be aware of, I guess, of difficulties in high streets. The retail shops are struggling, and I've said that we always try and help small businesses as much as possible through festival. So we've been trying to find a way with some of the Palmer's Green high street traders of, can we help them? And obviously through that, can they maybe bring some benefit to the festival as well? And what we struck on a couple of months ago was working with, particularly, I'm going to give a bit of PR here to Brian at My Time, the great Cafe Plus, which is opposite Wetherspoons in Palmer's Green High Street. Brian's coordinating a feature whereby some very, very small pop-up micro businesses on the Saturday before festival, that's Saturday the 1st, they'll be able to put their little business in My Time, and Brian's got a range, I think it's like 5 or 6 other high street shops where others can set up, so they can promote to shoppers on the Saturday. And on the Sunday, the same group are going to come into the festival. Brian's going to coordinate them on the bowling green, and it's going to have an arts and crafts theme. So that's going to be the heart of a new arts and crafts zone, if we call it that. For the last few years, we've had a visual arts, or art display, where local artists will display their work and sell their work. And that's done in conjunction with Starfish, the cafe on Alderman's Hill, and that's on the main gate. But towards the bowling green, we'll have this arts and crafts zone. And also in the bowling green, guy called Kevin's come across. He's wanted to work with Festival for a number of years. And Kevin has, if you remember, these great big black CDs made of vinyl before we had CDs and before things were streamed. And he's got a history of these in the sort of cool jazz, cool blues feel, which he calls Jazzebo. And he's going to come on. He's going to DJ his way through the afternoon in the bowling green. So you'll be able to shop at these pop-up businesses and arts and crafts zone and chill out with whatever you brought in your own picnic or things you brought from the shops to some Jazzebo. Now I've listened to this on SoundCloud, I think is the phrase. He loaded me some up. It's very chilled and very nice. So looking forward to that. So that's two of the new things. And I think our biggest one for this year, this is an idea which came to us. I think this is something else I would like to point out for festival. It is a bunch of volunteers. It's not laid down. And if someone has a great idea and brings it along and wants help to make it happen, we'll do all we can to bring that in. So a younger couple came along with an idea. They'd like to be involved in festival. And how about having a speaker's corner? What's a speaker's corner, we all said. And they explained what speaker's corner was. We thought, well, the person here for this is someone called Francis Seeley, because he's got all this experience around debates and IT kit and all this stuff. So these things, you never know what's going to happen. This has got Francis involved from festival now, which is a bit of a win. You'll never get out of it now. We'll hang on to him forever. So we're going to set up a speaker's corner right through the festival from, I think it's 12:30 till the end, about 6:30, 7 o'clock. We're going to run a series of discussions, debates, question and answer sessions with a whole range of speakers run from, we're talking about hierarchy from the Deputy Mayor of London right down to, we're hoping we're going to find school children at the other end. Big questions from the audience, discussions, debates, topics which will include things like high street problems, community safety. It's a worry for so many people in so many areas. Education and a raft of other hot topics. So the outline timetable is now on there on the website. It'll be subject, obviously, to a little bit fine tuning in terms of timing, exactly who's going to be on stage and not. But I would come along to that. It's got great potential. Not just great potential, I think, on the festival day, but what will help me is we're going to find a day to run it onwards. So whether that meshes in with your own Enfield voices and your other platforms, Francis, or we do something else locally, to be decided. But I think it's one of the exciting things about festival. Things can spin out of it and get a life of their own. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'm quite pleased to be involved in that because it's exactly what we do in GlobalNet and Enfield Voices. It's trying to get people to discuss the big issues. And as you say, the program's on the website. It still needs to be finalised a little bit, but it's almost there. It's almost complete. And we have sessions where you can meet your councillors, meet your MP, meet your London Assembly member, talking about community safety, sessions on high street regeneration, on mental health, on education, whether you should go through the state academies or homeschooling and so on. We hope to have an intergenerational debate as well. So there are a lot of items and they're all little slots right through the day. So I think that should be quite fun and quite exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the audience is that we will get for that. I was going to ask you, why is the festival only lasted one day? In one sense, it's not because you're doing things the day before, but why is it one day? Or are you looking, like the Speaker's Corner initiative, for example, for that sort of thing to be carried on throughout the year?
I think if Speaker's Corner carries on, I think it'll be fantastic. The other initiative, Talkies, obviously carries on. It's got a life of its own now. It's independent of festival, although David and Steve, they bring the stallette and promote it every year. Great for them. Palmer's Green Tales, I mentioned, which is an oral history project, which spun out of a festival initiative. That's now got a life of its own. But Festival for one day, I said earlier on, we've got a very small cost space. Obviously, we have cash flow items. A lot of the things we have to pay up front. Yeah. So yesterday, we got a bill for £75 from Ofcom for the license we need for the walkie-talkies, which we need for safety on the event. Now, £75 now is it's not a small budget item for us, but all that needs to be paid before festival. So we do have cash flow items. And if you think about, I suppose a festival, a lot of people will be familiar with the Enfield Town Show. If we draw an analogy with that now, sadly that's not going to happen this year, but the town show is on a Saturday and a Sunday. It also has some very big marquees and some big staging, which means the setup has to be on the Friday. you have Saturday and Sunday, and the takedown is on the Sunday. So that's 4 days, 3 nights. Nighttime invariably means you need security. Security means cost. They have fencing around it all, which means cost. They have, let's say they've got 3, 4, 5 gates to get into the park. Each of those have got to be manned to, for people to pay the fees to come in. That's got cost. And all that cost base increases it all. So I don't know the exact figures for the last Enfield Festival, but certainly when I was treasurer, I would say that if you took our cost base of Palmer's Green, multiplied by 2, put a 0 on the end, then you got the cost base of the Enfield Town Show. It's a quantum difference. What we do in the Palmer's Green show, and this, if you can ask me one thing which always just staggers me about it, it is this. So you go to Broomfield Park at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and there'll be ducks and a few dog walkers, and you can walk quietly and enjoy the park. Come 7:30, there's a bit noise going on. By 8 o'clock in the evening, it'll be a bit dark, but you can walk your dog, you'll hear some ducks, and it's a public park again. And in between those 2 times, you'll have had a number of thousands of people pass through, had a great time. You'll have had a fun fair. You'll have had any number of musicians. You might have drama groups. You'll have over 100 stalls with all their food and cars. So about 200, maybe 250 units of festival, as well as all the people that have been in and have been out again. And the park's been set up for that, and it's been put back into a public park. And that saves us a lot of money. Logistically, it's a huge challenge, and touch wood, we've done it so far without problems. So I think we'd love to do it over more than one day, but the costs just make it too prohibitive, Francis.
Well, I think, you know, most people, and well, I think almost everyone who's been to the festival will really enjoyed it and found that it's an incredible initiative, and that we appreciate the work that all of you have done, and appreciate especially Molly wanting to sing, because that was that was a motivation for starting it. Okay, so you depend on volunteers. You've told us about that, and that's very important. You don't have a lot of money, you try and do more for less. Now, if people want to get involved in helping out, if they want to find out more about the festival, what do they do? Who do they go to? How would you suggest they get involved?
Well, different ways to get involved. One is just get involved, just come along on the day, you know, enjoy the event, have a look around, look at some of the different groups, listen to the music, go away, and it'll cost you nothing. And that's fantastic. If you've got a particular skill or an interest, or you want something to stick on your CV, there's about 10 months work before that to get before festival. So, you know, this one will finish and we'll be kicking off again about October, November, ready for 2019. Delighted if anybody wants to get involved there. It's not a big formal committee. It's a lot of it's by emails, lots of it chats over the phone, usually informal with the occasional coffee, as you now know, Francis. So great in terms of working relationships there. I say we've got Speaker's Corner, was just someone came along with an initiative, and now it's going to be a big part of the festival, and hopefully a lot more. We always need volunteers on the day as well. Obviously, the day in the park is the big one. There's always things to do. It can be from moving chairs to just standing and telling people where something might be. And we always need, again, I mentioned the zones, the different zones we split the park into, where different activities will take place. We try and have what we call zone leads. These are people with a high vis on who will answer questions and look out for issues, and if there's something they need to feedback, they'll have a quality walkie-talkie to talk to Philip or myself or whoever. So if you're interested in that, we'd love to hear from anyone. Probably the easiest way is go to the website, and there's a contact us page on the end. Just drop me a name and email, and we'll get back in touch with you. That's volunteers. The odd £5–10 as well. Honestly, it really makes a difference. We've for a number of years we've got a single big £500 donation, which is a huge amount of money from a resident. It couldn't happen this year for different reasons, and you may have seen about 2–3 months ago we had as a result of that we had a campaign to try and raise £500 to get a portaloos, which you always have in the park. We have about 6 or 7 portaloos and one disabled one, and we got lots of small amounts from. There's a group looking to set or improve the playground in Broomfield Park. And they got wind of this, and they worked together, and they all sent their £5 and stuff. great. And we got one huge donation of £300 from one Palmer's Green couple. So the good news is we're going to have 4 to lose this year again. So, don't think £5 won't make a difference. It's spending a penny. And £5 can make all the difference for someone.
Okay, well, thanks for telling us about that, Karl, and that's great. And I'm sure a lot of people will be interested. And just to remind everyone, it's Sunday, September the 2nd at Broomfield Park, and it starts around about midday, goes on until around about 7, 8 o'clock. So it's a full day and there are a lot of activities. We're hoping to do another interview about the Speaker's Corner part of it just before the festival starts, so we'll be doing that again. So come on and listen to that. But if you want to find out more, as Karl says, look at the website or contact them through that site. Thank you for doing this anyhow, Karl. And just to let everyone know, we're doing 2 interviews this week. We're doing one tomorrow, and that one will be at 11 o'clock. And it will be with Ingrid Cranfield, who was a councillor. And we're going to talk about life after the council. Is there life after being a councillor? And we'll show that there is. She also attended the community safety meeting in Edmonton on Saturday, and she's going to tell us what happened there and give some critique of it, positive critique of it, to see how things can be taken forward. So that's at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So I hope we'll see some of you then. Anyhow, thank you again, Karl, for taking part and for, telling us about the festival, and for all that you've done, and Philip as well, and everyone else for making it possible.